Here we
Hi,
go.
Jerry. No vacancies. Well, not just yet. Oh, Podful of Saints, number 17 for the
Right.
season. What? Something wrong. Number 17 for the season on the 20th of November, 2024. And there's going to be three smiling faces. As we look on City's performance Saturday, we got an excellent goal. FA Trophy against Basford United, or Basford United. What do you make? A good evening. Good afternoon, first of all, Lee.
Yeah. Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dave. Good afternoon, Jacob. This cancel culture is going to get us. It's going to get us done for, Jake.
Jake, good afternoon, Jake. Head of controls.
Hello, everyone. Did we all have a nice Saturday?
We did. We weren't in Leeds like some people who were avoiding the fiasco. Right.
Was it a fiasco?
No, it was worse than that. Well, the comments I've had from people, they're not happy. The natives are restless. The peasants are revolting. Certainly ones I stand next to.
But is that a correlation between who they're standing next to and the quality of football on show, or what?
Probably. Right, I'll quickly get my bit out of the way, then you can do yours, Lee, and we'll ignore whatever Jake says. It completed a year of 2-1 defeats, actually. Our 365th 2-1 defeat.
Stat alert.
And it felt like a blooming year of defeats watching that Saturday, I'll tell you. And they're the 118th club we played just once. Right, that's got the nonsense out of the way. I will say, three really good goals Saturday. Really, really good goals. Got to give credit for all those. So one by Jordan Hallam. We knew he could strike a ball. Unfortunately, the management and the coaches and whatnot didn't realise that. We knew he could strike a ball before a game. And that's the best goal we're going to see all season. Now, all the comments I've had, I'll do a quick overview. Was it complacency? Was it incompetence? Was it bad team selection? Not going with a recognised forward up front. No Sean Jeffers, no Ken Charles. Chucks in his 22-year-old on loan from Barnet. He joined them from Hitchin after a couple of years at Hitchin Town. Poor lad. I mean, it's putting him in a situation like that. Well, one suggestion was he did it to try and get the sack so he can get out of it. I don't know about that. But
this is going well, fellas, isn't it? This is going well. Brilliant.
Oh, it's Peter Lawrence ringing. Lasher, go away. How do I get rid of him?
Sack him.
Anyway. I'll bring him back. He's after the job, but they're all in for it. He hasn't gone yet. Anyway, where were we? But football overall, I was disappointed. Most of that first half, Lee, we went back to what we were doing the first dozen games of the season, where it was that passing along the line, passing backwards, even more of it last night. And that's not the way we played lately, and the results and performances look better for it. And we paid a penalty for it. They looked more attack-minded, I thought, more determined to win that first hour. And they got their rewards. We stepped up really too late. 20 minutes to go. We could have rescued it. We had chances. It would work a couple of times. But we got what we deserved, which actually Nobby did say in the post-match interview, and I'll come on to that later on. And your summary, Lee?
Yeah, I'm pretty much spot on there, Tab, to be fair. My one takeaway is the fact that no one seems to be particularly angry by it. You know, the players weren't particularly, downhearted, downtrodden. The fans have now had this acceptance because regardless of what goes on the pitch, the owners aren't going to do anything about it. They, Nobby does seem to be here for the long haul. Hugs and kisses on camera from the owner towards the manager speaks volumes. Basford came to play. That was my very early indication. They came to play. No one really knew a great deal about them, but they played some nice stuff. Really nice stuff. There's a move, particularly in the first half, where 8-9 passes, but they were all forward, they were all to feet, they were all to attacking intended players. And you're absolutely spot on, Taz. We got nothing because you know why? We deserve nothing. We will always seem to kick in when we're chasing the game. It does seem as though we've resorted to type from the first few months of the season. Look, it's one game, fine, but we were second best in terms of work rate. We were second best in terms of intent, shots on target. We were outthought. We were outplayed. and we got what we deserved. The sad thing is that it shouldn't have got to this situation. You know, I don't mind if Basford absolutely battered us, but we made it so easy for them because our passing was so slow in comparison to the previous couple of weeks. It's almost as though we've gone back a month through time, and it's so pedestrian, very easy to defend against. And like I say, it was only really the last 15, 20 minutes when we decided to sort of try and turn up.
Yeah, I totally agree with all that. It was too pedestrian. That was the thing. When that passing game's not great anyway, and when you do it at that speed, well, you're giving the other team a chance. And even though a division below us, they say thanks very much, we'll take that. You say we didn't know much about them. Well, the head scout, I believe, was questioned about whether we had them watched, and his reply suggested we hadn't actually watched them live. We'd watched them on video or whatever, which isn't good enough. Club of our size, we've got to take the FA Trophy seriously. And if that is correct, well, that's just another failing of the club and the whole of that setup around the team at the moment. Just one more to chuck in there. We could see from the highlights of their previous game on the Saturday, not the midweek one against Stockton, the 2 goals Jordan Hallam got then. And yet there we were, 25, 30 yards out. We're giving him all the space in the world. Gio comes out, sort of goes halfway, lets him have that free shot. And it's a screamer. Absolute marvellous goal. But it shouldn't have come to that, as you said, Lee. We should have been the side that was telling them this is the way we are going to play. And we're bringing that new guy, Finn Wilkinson. And it was really unfair to chuck him in like that. I just don't understand the logic at all. A story that Jeffers was injured. I think that's been dismissed. Completely dismissed. It's all right if he is. When you sit Ken Charles in there, you're taking the FA Trophy seriously, St Albans City, or you're not. And we didn't on Saturday. One of the emails here said, "Did we underestimate? Did we disrespect the opposition?" Well, you can say yes to both of those with the side that he put out and the tactics he played. Why did we change the tactics and go back to what we were doing earlier, which failed?
Yeah, I agree with the tactics because I think, you know, if Nobby should have learned anything, it's that 2 up top is going to be our strongest suit, regardless of whether you believe you've got the strikers. The thing is, you brought Wilkinson in, and I actually know Finn a little bit. I used to interview him a few times when I was doing some bits for Hitchin, but he's not, by his own admission, he's not an out-and-out striker. So to play him up top on his own at this level, having barely known the names of his teammates, you know, it's a stretch. And I think that Nobby's put a lot of faith in the fact that he's a good player. And I think for the first 20 minutes, you saw that little bit of movement. There was sort of facets to his game which thought, okay, there's something about this fella. But again, it's a thoughtless task. Jeffers has struggled up front on his own. Charles has definitely struggled up front on his own. Wilkinson's now struggled up front on his own. Wilkinson scored 20-odd goals for Hitchens last year, but in a 3 where he's a little bit deeper. So you got players running off of him. And I think that's what maybe we tried to do. It didn't look it because there was no real intent to help support him, really. Second half, he fell away drastically. And I think the substitution came a bit too late. Charles came on and looked lively. But again, tactically, it was head scratching because it's gone backwards. You know, Nobby's built this platform now where he's got everyone off of his back for half an hour and the team are playing well. We're playing with pace and intent and we're playing with real drive and we're putting it to teams on occasion. I don't know what it was. I don't know what he thought in his mindset to go back and just play that solitary striker. Okay, you can flood the midfield, which is probably where our key players are. But again, you've got to have that balance and shape to it. And if the ball isn't sticking, because the ball needs to stay up that end of the pitch if you're going to flood all those players forward. But that wasn't happening. And I think, you know, this isn't all about David Noble, but he did get that wrong on Saturday.
I would say it is all about David Noble. When it was announced, I'll tell you what in a minute. On Friday, when it was announced we signed Finn Wilkinson, I had 2 people got in touch straight away, said, yeah, I've seen him play in the past. One was a former City player, and they like him. They gave him good reviews. So he probably is going to be a decent player, but that was just the wrong time chuck him in. And also, Nobby doesn't learn. One player up front against Galston, one player up front against Basford. That is complacency, no doubt about it. And in the end, it's made the club look absolutely ridiculous, been humiliated in both competitions, and it's made the rest of the players humiliated as well, because they're part of this shambles in those 2 games in particular. And you look at our league position as well, and as somebody says, you look at the FA Cup last season, Billericay, Bishop Stortford, the bottom of the North. So 2 bad defeats there, 2 bad defeats again this year to lower league opposition. You look at our league position, and Andy says here, how is this man still in a job? And it's difficult to justify it, isn't it? As things stand at the moment.
Well,
you can come in on that as well, Jake.
Yeah, I was just going to bring in Mr. Ellacott, because he's quite vocal about how things have panned out over the past few months. Jake, if I was to put a question to you, does the fact that there've been, a month or so of half decent performances without the results, is that a good foundation to really keep Noble in the job, considering that we're now out early of both FA Cup competitions, and it doesn't look as though we're going to be, what is it, three wins out of 19 or something, because those conversations are still going to be harping back. And is he on borrowed time, or do you think that there's enough credit in the bank in terms of where the owners think he is?
I think before you come in, Jake, Nobby's league record, of course, it's 2 wins in 16 this season and 2 in 15 at the back end for Wealdstone last year. So that's 4 wins in 31 league games. All yours, Jake.
Oh, cheers, Dave. No, I think it's so hard to tell, isn't it? Because, football logic and just common sense says David Noble will be under a huge amount of pressure right now. We saw Jerry Gill, which was the, for one that didn't understand it, was Dave's little pun at the start. Jerry Gill was really embedded in Barcy. He's been there for 6-7 years. He's been a key figure of that club. But when the times got tough, they've pushed him, and they've just had to acknowledge that's the way it's gone. Whereas David Noble, as you say, he's been at Wealdstone, well, he's with us, went to Wealdstone, came back, lost all his goodwill. He's come back, and now he's trying to earn it back again. But looking at results, this season is a failure right now, isn't it? We're in the bottom 4. We're out of both competitions pretty much as early as we could have been knocked out by teams that are not teams that should be knocking us out. And like Dave says, in very similar fashion, literally last week on the podcast, and if we talk about it, surely other people are saying, don't go into it like we did against Galston. Play on the front foot, attack, and we'll score more goals than them. It'll be fine. But we did the exact opposite, and it is just absolutely mind-boggling. And I just can't make sense of it. And I think most City fans would say David Noble's surely under pressure now, but without actually being in the owners' heads, we just don't know, do we?
It's funny, after the Galston game, I felt the supporters, most of their anger, of course there was a lot at Nobby, but most of it was at the players for the way they performed, particularly defensively, shambolically that day. Maybe it was a freak performance and we were just so bad that day. But on Saturday, I didn't think the blame was at the players. I felt the blame was 100% at David Noble. The email I got here, it says, who is to blame for debacle on Saturday? Well, people around me and the other responses I've had, 100% is David Noble.
That's always going to be the case, isn't it? The fact is that Nobby has had this target on his back from the minute he stepped back into Clarence Park. Some people didn't even want him back. Now he was back. Some people didn't want him to stay particularly long, and I don't think it's helped himself. There's things that he's done and things that he's said that haven't helped that cause. But he wants to right the wrongs. He wants to make this club a success. But how much time is he going to get to do that? Because we're saying this now. We're knocking on December, fellas. We're not pissing around. This is December. It's merry-go-round season in terms of managers now. We spoke about this back in the autumn. The scout for the Premier League team, he says it goes in threes. You have to start get a new manager in, or it comes in like the festive sort of time of year. I don't know where you go, Taz, because I agree Saturday was all on David. Absolutely agree 100%, because I think the team he picked, the tactics he applied, the changes happened far, far, far too late. that said, credit to Basford, because they came to play. They played extremely well, and they were worthy winners on the day. So you say there that Jeffers. I mean, I found out that Jeffers was injured, but you're now implying that isn't the case. So what, he was dropped entirely, or what's the situation there?
Well, Jeffers, I wanted to touch on later, if that's all right, Lee.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Because news about him and other players as well.
Right.
I just felt in the interview afterwards, Nobby disassociated himself from the way we played in the first half. But if that was the case, well, why didn't we go onto the front foot from the start of the second half? We didn't. It took another 25 minutes. So if he is in charge, things would have changed straight away. So you suspect he's actually as he wanted to play. He's only had to change when we went 2-0 down. Whoops, we've got to chase this a little bit now. And we changed our tactics and went a bit more direct. So for him to say the first half, it wasn't, it's not the word to use. It's not what he wanted. But that was a Nobby performance that first half, wasn't it, Lee? And it didn't change for 25 minutes of the second half. And it just didn't make sense how it didn't change. Why it was allowed to drift for so long.
Yeah, we had a couple of shots on target early doors, but other than that, in the second half, it was quite weird because we had a lot more ball in the second half. We looked a lot more promising, is probably the wrong word. We looked a lot more direct and looked as though we were going to attack with more consistency, but with no shots on target. You know, we had some defenders. They defended really, really staunchly. Ken Charles won over the bar, header back off the inside of the post. Zane fleeted in and out. Tafari didn't really look in it. He looked quite leggy towards the end. Lench, good goal, but again, that was off. You know when it's bad when the radio commentators say, "Yo, look what happens. You get a shot on target, it goes in the back of the net." You know, that's how frustrating an afternoon it was at the park. I don't know where we go, Taz. I genuinely thought that we'd crossed that bridge with the last month or so, performance-wise, certainly. But you said it all along, mate. You know, it's. Has he got a plan B? I don't know is the answer. But then again, has he got the personnel? There's a reason why Wilkinson's come in. Maybe he's thought that he's offered something different to that of Jeffers and Childs. So maybe that's what he wants to do. But given the fact of Saturday's showing, mate, that isn't the way forward.
Well, you said about a shot on target. Of course, they had in goal Harvey Woodward, 21-year-old debutant. He's playing in the United Counties League up until Saturday. For goodness sake. And where were our scouts, coaches and managers saying, pepper him with shots, test him out? It was the same as at Hampton when they had that 17-year-old debutant. He had one shot to deal with all game and it went in because of a kind deflection. If we can see it, why can't the bench see it? What is wrong in there with them? Someone's not doing their job, not doing their homework.
Go on, Jake, you leave that on, mate.
No, you're right. And I think whenever, the cup games are always hard, aren't they? And there's so many cliches about cup games. But I think the games we've had this season, I think, again, Galston does infer that we didn't do our research on them. Wasn't really, I'd say. Defensively, we were a shambles that day, but they cut us apart at times as well. And it sounds like, by all accounts, that Basford did a real number on us in the sense of they just did their jobs and sort of we didn't actually expect them to. And that is really naive. We talked about, didn't we, last week again, about that there's quite a lot of goals that they concede this season and there's a lot of opportunities. Sounds like we, again, just didn't really apply ourselves. And you're interested, you talk about the style of play, and I think we all agree the style of play has been much improved. But I'd heard from a couple of people, Weymouth, including you, Dave, that the display at Weymouth maybe wasn't quite up to the same level as a couple of weeks before, and the passing wasn't quite as dynamic and exciting going forward. And again, unfortunately, this cup defeat now feels like a bit of a continuation of that. It's only 2 games, but again, it's just really worrying, isn't it? Because like Lee says, Christmas decks are going up next week. We need to start winning games at some point in the league. Otherwise, we're going to we've crawled ourselves back into a position where we are a couple of wins away from getting out of the bottom 4. But because of where we are,
don't get playoffs.
Because of where we are, it's been a big gap all season, and that gap could easily stretch in the next couple of weeks with the games we've got coming up and the games that other teams around us have coming up. So we need to kill this off now, or do whatever, because the last week and a half, 2 weeks is just a real concern again.
Oh, humbug! They're not going up round here. The post-match interview, Joe. I haven't met Joe. He's probably a nice bloke, but he asked about Joe Parkinson's injury. That was it. No mention. Why wasn't Ken Charles playing? Why wasn't Sean Jeffers playing? What's happened to Alfie Payne? He's not even playing for the reserves or under 23s, what you want to call them. What proper questions are not happening now. Either Joe doesn't think about them, and I can't believe that. He's watched us all season, so he must know where those players are not there, or the club is saying you don't mention those. And if that's the case, well, Joe, you walk out. You don't get dictated to. You're doing the interviews. You ask the questions. And David Noble's been in football long enough. Christ, he was expect them, surely. A game like that, you haven't played your two main strikers. You would expect to get asked about them. And that was a failing of the club to say, well, we won't tell the supporters. You mentioned about Sean Jeffers being injured. That's not the story I've heard. I've heard he could be on his way out the door. Problem with the contract of the club's own making, which is delaying it. And if it's wrong, I'll hold my hands up. But apparently that is the story. And I won't say the club where he's supposedly going to if it comes off. But we shall see. Well, we've heard these rumours before, so we won't get too excited until it happens. But also, there's another story says it's going to be a big announcement in the next few weeks, and people have jumped to a conclusion it's going to be Jeffers, especially when they saw us bring a striker in last Friday. I'm not sure. That doesn't sound like the big enough story to say it's going to be a big announcement in a few weeks' time. I think it's more likely investment, a chance of that. It was a story it's going to be investment in the summer, but that didn't come off. Or the new ground, because new government's come in and said you could build it in anybody's back garden now, whatever, as long as you stick some houses with it. So that may be getting regurgitated and coming up again. You just wonder. But if Sean is on the way out, he's not the only one. The club has also made Romeo Akinola and Ife Allen available for permanent transfer or loan, which they did earlier this week.
How do we dissect all of that, Jake? I mean, Mr. Barrage is in town, so it's...
oh, my God. Well, on Sean Jeffers, as you say, we've heard this before, haven't we? About him coming and going and bits and pieces. I think let him. I don't believe the rumor myself, but I think letting him go mid-season would give a really dreadful message. I think to supporters of the club and the clubs around us that we're competing with. Just because Sean Jeffers, he might not have featured as much this season, but I remember one member of the club a few years ago saying to me that Sean Jeffers, if he doesn't play a lot or he does play a lot, he's the star man at this football club. The supporters, the young kids, love Sean Jeffers. He's a player they all talk about.
Apart from the non-league scout, who thinks that he's the most overrated person.
Yeah. And I think to let him go, say, mid-season, would, I think, potentially send the wrong message. And that, like you say, Dave, we brought in a striker last week, but he's not really a striker, is he? I don't think, the new lad. He's more of a wide man. He scores a decent amount of goals. So that rumour, I hope not. We'll see. Hopefully, Dave, you've got egg on your face in a few weeks. I'll be fine with that. Yeah,
thank you very much. As long as you don't throw it. Nobby's made it clear in the past he doesn't want him here. But
has he?
Has he? But in his last 2 years, he's still scored a sack full of goals, and so it's been impossible to shift him on because he's integral to the team. Whether it's on the bench or starting, he's still scored goals. This year, when he's not scoring so many, it makes it easier for Nobby to drop him. But it's funny, he's done it now after probably his best game of the season against Chelmsford. I know he didn't score, he set our goal up. Suddenly drop him after that, just seems bizarre. But as I say, we'll wait and see what comes of it. What do you reckon on the other two being made available to shift on?
I think loans seem quite likely. I think the arrival of Dom Hutchinson sort of spelt danger for them too, didn't it? And Ife Allen's never got back in since that injury, and Romeo Akinola, I mean, bless Romeo, he's tried hard, hasn't he? He's been around here for so long, not played a lot of football, but I think he just needs to get out there and get consistent games, doesn't he? So yeah. And the other question, like you said earlier, Dave, where's Alfie Payne?
The question just isn't asked, isn't it, in the interview? It just isn't asked. There are two major signings. One's down at Basingstoke now, and one is living on Mars, as far as we can tell. Right. Anything else about Basford anybody wishes to add?
No. But credit, though, absolute credit to them, because their fans were superb. And as a club, they seem to run themselves in the right way, and good luck to them in the next round. Fantastic.
I think as well, we had a few comments on Twitter. Our old friend Ian Hall said, disappointed but not shocked by the result. Fair play to Basford and their fans. Aaron Livingston asked Dave, what are you up to now on the 4th of December? People concerned.
Well, it's not a Saturday, Aaron. Get your facts right.
Oh dear. Another one, just another disappointing Saints defeat. And final comment, Noble's throwing players under the bus in the post-match. Where is this all leading to, essentially? We can excuse results, but not a total lack of effort. The first half was shocking. So I think that sort of coincides with what we said, and also all the comments you've received as well, Dave. I think it's fair to say.
You mentioned Ian Hall. Before the game, I was chatting to a Basford supporter. He was from London. The first one that Basford supporter Ian spoke to, he was from Park Street, I think, or London Colony. So I got more supporters down here when they got up in the Midlands. And of course, Ian's also pleased because he's a Nottingham Forest fan, isn't he? And he's got this trickies thing, which is Nottingham Forest supporters. And of course, Basford being from Nottingham, he signed up a whole load more, didn't he, over the weekend?
Oh, dear me. Don't encourage him. Come on.
Picket lines everywhere. They'll be fine.
Right. Moving on to happier times. A 2-1 win for the Saints last night, away to Bishop Stortford, Hart Senior Cup second round. Oh my God! The first quarter now, we did so many back passes to the goalkeeper. I thought, no, come on. Nobby made 4 changes. He brought in a few players. If I have my list up here, I could probably tell you, it might help. James Sweet for his debut, Udoka Chima for his debut, and who else came in? Romeo Akinola came in, and Ben Smith came back in. And later on in the game, Alfie Big came on for his debut. Stortford, Steve Castle, he made 4 changes as well from a side that won 3-1 at Spalding United Saturday, with Jack Roberts getting a hat-trick. I thought they looked poor. They looked so poor. We created a whole load of chances, which you would expect to against them. We stuck away a couple of them in the end, and it was too easy for us. It was like a training game. What was good, though, was to see us creating those chances without going all out attack. We didn't have to. Unfortunately, it was not a strong Stortford side. I think I'm talking to myself on this one, aren't I? Because I don't think too many of us were there.
I was following the game on social media, and it did sound like it was at times almost a constant stream of opportunities to the Saints. And as you say, that is good, because hopefully that just gets us back into that approach again. And it's good again that a few members of the squad that have probably needed minutes or still need to start featuring got that opportunity. But it's a county cup, isn't it? It wasn't the strongest Bishop Stortford side, it's fair to say. And, it's the result that it's the kind of result that we should be, kind of game we should be winning fairly comfortably. And we did in the end. But also, we just love a little bit of a last-minute panic towards the end, don't we? So that's good to keep us on our toes.
In the Stortford side was Charlie Castle's, Steve's son, of course. One player from a couple of supporters picked out last night, we mentioned him before we came on here, James Sweet. He was with Arsenal for donkey's years as a kid. A broken ankle, I think about a year or so ago, so he had a year out of the game. He's come back, and he's had trials with a couple of clubs, hasn't he, Jake?
Yes, apparently of a Premier League club, hasn't he? Aston Villa, and also one in the Championship, believed to be Bristol City. So could be an interesting signing. But all the things I've heard from Saints fans that were there last night, really, really good reviews. And even you, Dave, seemed quite impressed with him.
Was he playing? Oh, yeah. Well, we were just so comfortable all the way through, really. Until Michael Johnson decided to even things up by... the ball just went through my hands. It's the first time he's done that for a while. Sorry, MJ. Had to be said.
Was it that bad?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've seen the video. I sent you the video to go, and wasn't great. Oh. Yeah, even in your six-a-side, you'd have fancied holding that one, Jake, as it came across.
Thank you.
But yeah, Nick Ralph got a great goal second half. coming in from the city right and curled it in the far corner. So that won't do him any harm because he spent enough time sitting on the blooming bench watching the others making fools of themselves this season. So that was good to see.
He's got the devil in him today, Jake, isn't he?
I know.
No one's safe from the forked tongue wrath of D. Tavener.
You could tell he had to stand in the cold in Bishop Stortford last night, can't you?
And the calibre of people around him as well. That would really set him off the edge,
Wait till all 10 toes get cold when we're really let loose. Another good thing last night, of course, captain making his debut, delayed by 3 months or more, Lewis Michio.
Yes. We've heard, haven't we, that he was coming back in the reserves and stuff like that. And it's good to see him back. Be interested to see how he fits in the team because defensively, again, after the last couple of games, I'm just wondering who comes out, who goes in terms of cover we've got now. I presume he'd be somewhere on the left-hand side, but to be honest, anyone would be welcome back at the minute. So,
yeah, well, James Sweet played at right back and Chima, I don't know where Chima was, a bit all over the place. But Michio was more central.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. He was a good. When we signed him, we all thought he'd be a decent signing, didn't we? And so hopefully he can actually stay fit now and play a part in this team that needs a bit of help.
Nicely put, Jake. Nicely put. You want to add anything to a Heart Senior Cup win, Lee?
No, a win's a win in the cup, and quite at this moment in time, I'll take it.
Right, we return to league action on Saturday when Chippenham Town are at the Park. Good record against them. We've won 2 of the last 11 meetings. They are the ultimate inconsistent side, I think. They get a bit of good form lately. Draw at home, draw with Truro, hammered Eastbourne Borough 3-0, and a 4-0 win away to Welling United. But then they went out with a trophy on Saturday to Chesham United. They are, as I say, inconsistent. At home, it was Nobby's first league game, wasn't it? It was at home to them. They scored in injury time. It was Saturday night, I think it was. It's a winnable game, isn't it? It's these 2 games, them and Aveley on Monday, 2 winnable games.
We need to stop saying that.
What you talk about David Noble not learning, right? What have we just for the love of sweet Jesus, man, what have we just been talking about? Tabs, listen, mate, they're winnable games, but we don't know what city side are going to be turning up, do we? We don't even know. You know what frustrates me is that the lack of consistency in our team selection. Because you've got to build that rapport over the course of time, right? You've got to have that confidence in the players around you, and you build a foundation where that is a core thing. There's chopping and changing, there's tactics, because that is the result of us not doing our homework properly in the summer, getting players in to fill the positions rather than just getting in players and making them fit into whatever system you think is going to be working. I cannot, hand on heart, go into any City game now knowing what to expect, because we're either going to be fantastic and we're going to, play around with speed or we're going to do what happens on Saturday. It's going to be so slow, it's going to be frustrating, and just invite teams up on us and then they smother us and then we panic and then we go behind. It's not until the last 20 minutes when we got to get a result out of the game, then we start putting our passes together and showing a bit of intent. But winnable games, yeah, fine for any other team.
Winnable. We're allowed to be complacent. What do you feel about Saturday, Jake? Must win, or will 4 points over 2 games be enough?
I think it's got to be must win because there's no guarantee we're going to go to Aveley and get a win, is there? So I think if you've got to target 6 points, we're in that situation. We're 4 points adrift as it stands. Bath picked up a point last night after sacking Jerry Gill against Maidstone. So I think you've got to go for 6 points. And I think also in the picture of the run we've got in December and the teams we're facing in December, it's not pretty. It's not the lead up that I want to the festive season at all. We've got some difficult fixtures there. Maidstone, Boreham Wood, Worthing, Truro. Then we've got that team down the road who we'll probably overtake by then, hopefully. But those are difficult games and we need to get the points on the board now. And I think Saturday probably isn't must win in reality, but it certainly must not lose, I think.
Yeah. Aveley, Back in the summer, I thought we should have gone for Danny Scope as manager. He'd done well at Aveley, he's done well at Concord Rangers. He's got a fight on his hand keeping Aveley out. Of course he has, so they're punching above their weight. But they beat us last time they were down the park, so we've got to go back over the park side. And we're not taking the sting out of the game. We've got to impress ourselves on them, I think, because taking the sting out of the game isn't working. Impress ourselves on them and get at them, because they're on a dodgy run. They're not going to be happy if someone's getting at them early on.
No, absolutely. And what, Aveley have, 10 points? So if,
No, better than that.
Not is it? Oh God.
11. So, 11. You're 10% out.
Oh, there you go. So these two games I think this is a critical weekend now. After last Saturday, this is a critical 48, 72 hours that we've got. I think if you come out of it with maybe 4 points, not so bad, 6 points perfect, but any less than 4 points, and I think it's definitely right, where do we go from here time? Because it's getting to that time of the season.
Of course, it's going to be one massive celebration at Clarence Park on Saturday, because it's David Noble's 100th match as Northern City manager, or judging by the person who does the stats in the programme, probably about his 48th. Next week, should we look back? Well, if he's still here. Next week, should we look back over his 100 games and we won't have time for the low points, but pick out the high points?
Oh,
I can't remember that far back, to be honest with you, Tavs. I mean, I wouldn't really want to impose that upon anybody. If I'm honest, it was most of them were pretty bad the first time around, so I'm not entirely sure I want to go over them again.
I mean, I'd be delighted if we can get a win in his 100th game on Saturday. I'd be absolutely buzzing with that, to be honest. You know, Chippenham are going to be difficult, but you know, I think if we just start really slow again, and if we don't impose ourselves and we go out there and think, let's be a bit slow with this build-up play, see what happens, and I think we're just on a hiding to nothing.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with any of that. What do we do, though? Do we stick with Finn up front, or would you just say Ken Charles comes back in? He's our leading goal scorer this season. Or do we see if Sean Jeffers has got 2 good legs and stick him in?
I haven't really got a huge preference over personnel, but certainly play 2 up front. I think if evidence has suggested anything, is that is going to be our biggest threat. Charles and Wilkinson, I don't mind that. I don't mind. I think we've always said we don't mind them dropping Jeffers if it's justified. And look, if they're trying to force him out of the door, that's a whole nother reason to do that. But you got to play 2s. You got to play 2s because it was, he tried so hard on Saturday, Wilkinson, and it wasn't until Charles come on as well. He looked lively because he's got a point to prove, right? Because he's still been getting dropped as much as Sean has half the sort of time. So, there's chips on shoulders there. Excuse the pun. And Chippenham Town coming up on Saturday. And we've got to have... That wasn't intended at all, by the way. So play 2. Play in their box. Let's just really impose, as you say, impose ourselves. And God forbid, shots on targets, fellas, and see what happens.
Well, at the back, you'll have David Long King, presumably, will come in, or Joe Partington. I would imagine it would be Long King. He's got Chima now. He's got 90 minutes behind him. He could chuck him in as well. He's got Michio, could chuck him in. He could have Sweet on the bench, I would imagine. He's got a lot more options than what he's had for a little while, by the looks of it. Well,
I wouldn't be shocked if Michio comes in, myself, actually, potentially start. I think James Sweet's a bit of is he actually on papers and registered to play in the National League South? I think that's a question. I know he has been registered with the reserves and featuring in the County Cup. I'd like to see Sweet in the squad if he's around, but I think Michio might be the one that we come in, and I wouldn't be opposed to it myself.
Okay, fair enough. Right, should we do some predictions and be complacent and disrespectful to next 2 teams coming up?
How did they go last week?
Very well indeed. None of us went for a win last night. I wonder why that was.
And I suppose one thing to note as well is we might see a bit of rotation, might we, from Saturday to Monday, just because it's 72 hours. So actually, that might be part of David Noble's thinking in terms of who he starts on Saturday.
We started it last Saturday, didn't we? Ready for this weekend. Right, Chippenham. Same as last year, 1-1 draw.
Oh, you've stolen mine. 2-2.
You've not got far to go on this one, Lee. Not many options.
I'm going to go for a 3-1 St Albans City victory.
Get in.
And what about next Monday down at Parkside?
I'm going to go 1-1.
1-1, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go 2-0 Saints.
Yeah, I like this positivity. I think. What did you go for, Lee? I've got that wrong there. You went 2-0.
So
1-1. You went what? You went 1-1. Right. Okay. Yeah, I think you're heading in the right direction. So 1-0 defeat. Well, we like to be balanced, don't we? We like to be balanced. So there we go.
Oh,
right. Is that enough for this week?
I think
so.
Yeah. I think we need to mention that by all reports, half of Norway is coming over this weekend to see the Saints play. So safe travel, gents, and I'm sure we'll see you.
Daughters.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see you in the pubs, no doubt.
Talking of Norway, Jake, I had that reply from Jeff Gould in France after he's mentioned on the pod last week. He's living off it in not France, in Spain. He's living off that now. But he said when he used to do the program in the 70s, he'd ring up the manager. I can't remember what it was then. I should have done. And ask for a team. And he got fed up with him ringing him out. He said, just pick the team, Jeff. Just pick your own team, put it in there. And I think this is the way forward this season, really. But anyway, it's not going to happen.
That's pretty much what happens now, isn't it? I mean, to be fair. On that note.
Yeah, on that note. Podful of Saints on Twitter, email description below. Thank you all for your engagement, responses, comments this week. Really appreciate any views. And we will speak to you again next week after the Saints do something in the next 2 games. Let's hope it's positive. Come on, you Saints. Bye-bye, everyone.